All right, y'all. Here we go. So, the other day we discussed how the court date for Trump was moved for one of his cases. It was originally supposed to be March 4th, but since his lawyers were trying to block the case on the grounds that he has presidential immunity, the judge had to say, okay, we're not going to be able to do this within this timeline. We have to postpone the case indefinitely until that's resolved, right? Well, literally a day after the case was postponed, the three-judge panel, which was hearing his presidential immunity claim, they came out and they said, oh, 3-0 against Trump. Of course you don't have full presidential immunity on literally any and every crime you could theoretically commit. That would be insane. So Mediaite says here, breaking, Trump not immune from prosecution, D.C. court rules unanimously. So I'll get into the specifics here in a second, but let's be clear. When a president is president, at that point in time, the only course of action to take against him for quote-unquote high crimes and misdemeanors is impeachment. And to remove the president, they need to be impeached through the House, but then convicted on that impeachment in the Senate, and then they can be removed from power. That's dealing with a sitting president. What Trump was claiming is, once you are president, even when you no longer are president, you still have immunity that, lasts until you die. That was the claim he was making to try to cover his ass from his 91 criminal charges. Well, again, 3-0, they said, no. That's absolutely absurd. So here in Mediaite, they say, former President Donald Trump lost a major court decision on Tuesday as the D.C. Circuit Court unanimously ruled he does not have presidential immunity from prosecution. Politico's Kyle Cheney reported on the 57-page unanimous 3-0 decision, noting the unanimous ruling is a sweeping win for Jack Smith and prosecutors. Any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against prosecution. Trump is facing 91 criminal charges in 4 different cases. In Washington, D.C., is facing charges related to his effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election and stay in power, which resulted in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Trump's legal team argued before the D.C. Appeals Court that former presidents cannot be prosecuted, attempting to throw out the federal election interference case and extend presidential immunity to the post-presidency. Trump's team also claimed that Trump cannot be tried again over events related to January 6th, as he was already impeached and tried in the U.S. Senate, despite impeachment not carrying the weight of a criminal trial. That's actually interesting right there. I guess you could say it's a good thing that Jack Smith did not charge Trump with insurrection specifically or anything directly around January 6th. It's more about the fraudulent elector scheme, which I think makes sense. I think there's more criminality there and stuff you could actually nab Trump on. But, guys, just to be clear here, they, laughed this out of the court. It was a scathing response from them. During the hearing, I don't know if you guys remember this, we covered it on the show, one of the judges was probing Trump's attorney and basically said, okay, so what if, the president has SEAL Team 6 go assassinate somebody, go assassinate one of his political opponents, and then, resigns immediately after that? Is that, are you okay? Do you get away with it? Because there wasn't an impeachment in the House and a conviction on that impeachment in the Senate? And basically they were like, yeah, that's right. You would be immune in that scenario. Trump's attorney was arguing, if you're impeached and convicted on that impeachment, then that opens the door for potential criminal trials afterwards. That was his take. But, I mean, obviously that's absurd because you could just commit any crime you want and then resign immediately, and then you would have not been impeached, would have not been convicted on that impeachment, and therefore there's this giant loophole where you are literally above the law. You could commit any crime and get away with it because they can't try you criminally because you weren't impeached and convicted on it when you were president. So there's a giant gaping loophole in law and order, in, justice being blind and equality under the law, and they laughed this out of the room. They said that's absurd. No, of course. When you're no longer president, you can be tried for crimes, even crimes committed when you were president. So, look, this is a huge deal, and that means that now they'll probably schedule this trial. Hopefully they schedule it for some other date in March. The thing I was worrying about is that the weakest of all the cases was now moved to first place, namely the New York hush money case. That's supposed to be the first trial that happens now. I don't like that. I think that trial should wait. I think that should be pushed back to be the last trial because it is the least consequential with the least amount of a penalty or punishment associated with it. I think without a doubt, at this point, you should have D.C. go first. You should have Jack Smith go first. People have made the case that the Georgia case against Trump is actually the strongest on the merits, but now there's a scandal around Fani Willis appointing somebody to be the Trump prosecutor who she was like sleeping with, and so they're sort of undermining the seriousness of it from that perspective. And so I'd rather have Jack Smith, who has all of his ducks in a row, who I think has phenomenal arguments. I read through the whole indictment when it came out. I think he should go first so that, you hit Trump up front with the best thing you got and hopefully take him off the playing field. So I don't know how much this messed with the timeline. It's actually a shame that the court date was moved the other day, because a day later, basically, this was a big hit to Trump where they said, no, of course you can be tried on these 91 criminal charges. Of course you can. So this is a big deal. And there was a statement that was released, but it was by Trump's one of his like spokespeople, and so it wasn't the typical all caps like "How dare you? I'm such a victim," witch hunt, yada yada. So it's no fun. But make no mistake about it, this is a big hit on Trump, and it means that all these cases will proceed. And again, all I have to say is you better hurry up. You better speed it up, because we need to get a conclusion before the general election. And if we don't, Lord only knows what happens. Because, Trump has a very good chance of being president again. What if he's elected president and then before inauguration, he's found guilty and he's supposed to go to prison? What kind of a constitutional crisis are we looking at then? That is absolutely positively on the table, and that should terrify you. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.